Hello everyone. ZZ is hard. Specifically, EO is a really difficult thing to get your head around. There aren't very many resources out there, and the ones that are either really long, like Phil's tutorials, or not made by someone who uses ZZ, like JPerm. Keep in mind, these are great resources, and I frequently recommend them to people who are struggling with EO. I just want to contribute something from my own experience. For reference, I've been using ZZ for over 5 years. I switched from CFOP back in late 2015, early 2016. This is going to be a very basic video for beginners regarding solutions to EO only. I'm not going to teach how to recognize EO cases because I think JPerm does a really good job of this. So if you want to check him out, I'll leave his video in the description. And I'm not going to be solving line or cross because oftentimes that's not what beginners struggle with. Obviously, once you get a little bit more comfortable, you definitely should cater your EO solution to your line and cross solution. I might make videos about that in the future, but for now I will only be covering solving EO. Second, the scrambles I'm using are only length 15, but since I'm not going to be solving XEO lines or anything like that, if you want to practice scrambles with this specific number of bad edges, the timer I use to generate them is in the description. And in addition, each of the scrambles and solves that I'll be doing will be in the description, so you can follow along if you'd like. 2 bad edges is the simplest, since you only have to keep track of 2 edges the whole time. You can use simple things like a 3/4 sledge or variations on that. When you get a little bit more comfortable, you can oftentimes solve your line or cross beforehand, and then get sledge the last piece in to solve them simultaneously. As you can see, I've got 2 cubes with the corners unstickered, because when you're solving just EO, especially at a beginner level, you shouldn't really be paying attention to your corners. But on a normal cube, they just add some distraction. So I've given a couple where I'm not including those, but then also I do have normal cubes just that show what an actual solve is going to look like and how you have to pay attention to only the edges. So for our first, we have this. I scramble in WC orientation, but I'm going to be solving in mine, which is next to away. So blue and yellow. But as always, I'll do a Z2 to check the back. So I see this is bad, and this is good. These are all good, and this one is bad. And then, so it's just these 2. This one is bad, and this one is bad. From here, I'll do an F to misorient these 3. And then this creates this open slot where a good edge is. So I can take this bad edge, which I've lined up properly, do an R2 to get all 4 in the front, and then another F, and now all my edges are oriented here. So I see none of these are bad. And then on the front, this is bad, and this is bad. So because they're both on the front, I'm going to have to take one off, and then I'll do an F move to get these 3 misoriented, and then the open slot is here. I can push this one in, and then do another F move to solve them all. Now, normal cube that you'd actually see in a real solve, you've got a bad edge here and a bad edge here, and because these are the examples with two bad edges, that's it, and nothing else. So because they're on the back, I would either solve from a Y to a way, or for my normal orientation, I would hold them at an X. So I can do the B and U moves as U and F moves instead, which are more finger trick friendly. So this bad edge is on the back. I'm going to do a B, technically a B prime, to misorient these 3 edges, and then open this slot up, and then do a U to put this bad edge in there with all 4, and then another B to orient them all. And now for this, we've got a bad edge here, and then a bad edge here, and that's it. So they're on the F and B faces in such a way that I can't just do an F move, which is the first move I'm going to do, and then insert it in one move, like I've done with the other 3 examples. But what you can do is I can insert this into here with a couple moves to get all 4 on the front face, and then do another F. Now, beginners don't typically struggle with 2, but I do think it's necessary and important to show just what sort of things you can do when you've left with 2 bad edges, which is often something you can reduce to with higher edge counts. 4 edges is the building block of EO, since every case is going to boil down to it. Not many beginners struggle with this, but it's really important to be able to handle each case properly. There are a couple different patterns that I see with 4 edges that lets me categorize other higher edge cases and make solving them a lot easier. So for our first case, we've got nothing on the back, 2 on the side, 1 on the front, and then 1 on the side here. So this is a very common one where you've got 1 on the front where you're going to need it, and then you've got 3 around on the ring or somewhere on the back. So you can do sort of a 3 move sequence of R prime, B prime, L prime to get all 3 on the front in addition to the 4th one, and an F move to well done. So it's a very simple sequence. That's a very, very common case. For this one, we've got 3 edges on the back, nothing there, and then nothing on the front, and one on the D layer. This is a really nice case if you can get it, because it's basically 2 move EO. So you've got 3 edges on the back and one here. So this is your open slot. You can do D move, or from here, D move and a B move to orient everything from the back. And that's also something generally you want to boil down to. A lot of the 2 cases ended up being a 3 and then a 1 insert. So very, very common, very nice. For this one, we've got nothing on the back, 2 here, and then 2 here on the side. So these 2 on the front are stationary, and then this one will slide in, and this one will slide in to the front. Then you can do an F move to orient them all. For here, we've got 1 on the back, 1 on the side, 2 on the front. So we can insert this here, U2, and we can insert these 2 by kicking this one out to push this one in, and then moving this one up to get all 4 on the front. F move. And finally, this case, we've got 1 on the back, 2 on the side, 3 on the side total, and then 1 in the front. This is also a pretty common thing, which is you've got this sort of roux arrow-ish thing going on, where you can do an L2 and then a U prime and a D to get these 3 on the front, and then slide this one up, or an F. And finally, for 4 edges, I've got a bonus for when you've got your bad edges on a slice. So M slice, E slice, S slice. These can be really nasty if you don't really have a good way of approaching it, but I think there's some nice ways of doing it. They're not the best cases, but they're also not the worst. And they're all pretty similar because they're all slices. So for M, this is honestly my least favorite. I think the E and S are a little bit more finger trick friendly, but this one's not terrible. I've got it along the M slice. So we'll do a U prime and a B2 to line this up to like a roux arrow thing, which is something you'll see a lot. And then I'll do R prime L F to get them on the front. For E, this is pretty cool. Very, very similar thing. It just has a slightly different finger tricks, which I think are better. From neutral, you can do either an L or an R, P2, R2, and then U, D prime, F to solve all your bad edges. It's pretty cool, pretty nice alg. And originally, all of these stemmed from this S case that we found, which was, I think, pretty nice. You could do R, F2, but sort of like a D2, as if you did an L prime, D2, and then R2, U, and then F. 6 edges is, in my opinion, one of the most versatile of all cases, and allows for a lot of influence for your line across edges. So for our first case, we've got 2 in the back, 1 on the side, and then 3 in the front, and nothing on the side. So these 2 here, and this one here, I see this. Well, if I do an F prime, I get this bad edge and this bad edge. They'll slot into these 2 slots on the back very easily with an R2 and a D prime. And then all I have to do is do a B, and then all my edges are solved. Very nice solution. For here, I've got 3 on the back, 1 on the side, and then 2 on the side over here. So immediately I see if I turn this one bad, the B, this turns into this roux arrow sort of thing from before. I can do an R2, a U, and a D, and that gets these 4 oriented. Finally, for this case, you've got 2 in the back, 2 on the side, and 2 on the front, in addition to this third one. So there are 2 ways I could go about doing this, and I'll show both of them. One would be sort of a 3-3 approach, which is what I've shown for the other 2, is where you do misorient this one and orient these 3 with an F, and slot this in R2, L, and then B. Another thing you could do would be to solve 4, 4-2, so do a U prime and an F, and now we've got this bad edge and this bad edge. You can insert them like that, just like our other 2 cases. I generally don't like doing that. I'm not exactly sure why, but both are valid, and you should definitely be experimenting with both ways of solving 6. 8 edges is a fun one. There are a lot of really interesting things you can do, and some really lucky cases if you can force all the edges to F and B at the same time. For our first example, we'll be looking exactly at that. We got 3 on the back, 2 on the side, 3 on the front. So with these two on the back, it's very simple to go L prime, then F, B. And then you've got all your edges oriented. For this, we've got 3 on the back, 1 on the side, 2 here, and 2 here. Not the nicest of cases, but there's actually something pretty cool you can do to push them all to 8. So you can do a U prime, then an R2 to get this to a good spot, and then U prime L, and that pushes all your edges to the front and back. Then F, B, and then you've got all your edges oriented. So for this one, we got 2 on the back, 3 over here, 2 here, and 1 here. This isn't the nicest of cases, but it's not really that awful. So I'm going to do this in a sort of 2-step sort of fashion. The U prime, F, to get rid of the 4 on the front. I've got these 2 on here, these 2 over here. So I can do R prime, and then a U, D to get these 4 on the back, and then B prime to get the rest oriented. For the next case, we've got 4 on the back, 1 on the side, 1 on the side, or 1 on the front, sorry, and then 2 on the side over here. So this is actually very easy. You can do a B move, and you've got these 4 isolated, just like a normal 4 case. So you can do that sequence of moves to just push all the edges onto the front, do an F prime, and get them all oriented. Lastly, we've got this. We've got 2 on the back, got 1 here, 3 on the front here, and then 2 on the side. So for this, we've got 3 on the front over here, and 2 on the back, but I can push this to the back, and we can do F and B prime to get this into this arrow sort of formation from the side. Do a UD to get this arrow on the front, M, U, and we get all our edges solved. Oh, and my cat has decided to jump up onto my desk. Hello, Finn. You've interrupted us at our ZBLL solving. Now you're going to interrupt me for EO. And to note, I did not plan this. Like, I picked him up last time, but he's coming up of his own volition because he wants attention. And he's going to purr and roll over on the table. He's still here. Good boy. 10 edges can be really tough, and this is generally the one I hear beginners having a tough time dealing with. I think the main idea with 10 edges is to memorize the first 2 moves or so where you solve 4 edges, and then try and think of a solution from there. Once you can see the 6 edges instead of the 10, it becomes a lot easier. For this example, you've got 4 on the back, you've got 2 on the side, 3 on the front, and then 1 more here. So if I think about it just like doing this B move first, which is the first thing I'm going to do, I can see these 6, which then I can also do an F move, which boils down to this 4, which is one of the things we went over. We do RL, UF. And so when you think about it like that, it becomes a lot easier. Granted that was a very easy case, but when you break it down from 10 to 6 to 4, it becomes a lot simpler to manage. Here we've got 3 on the back, 2 on the side, 3 on the front, and then 2 on the side again. So this, again, is also, I think, a little bit easier, not necessarily something people are running into that's tough, because we've got these 2 on the side. We can do L prime, and then F, B prime, and then we've got just these 2. So when you deal with it like an 8 and then 2, you've got these 2, and that's just one of the simple 2 cases you can deal with. Finally, we've got this case. We've got 3 on the back, 4 on the side, 3 on the front, and 2 here. So our good edges are here and here, which isn't super great, but so I can do a U prime to get 4 on the back, do a B, and then I've got these 3 on the S slice, and these 3 here. If I do an F, that's going to set up to, again, this sort of thing where we've got 3 on this slide, then 1 here. You can slot them in 1 by 1, an F move, and you've got it all. So that's generally how I approach tens. Honestly, tens are sometimes difficult for me to find something that is nice. Definitely one of the trickier cases, but if you can break it down into reducing it to 8, 6, 4, whatever you can, it becomes a lot easier to manage. 12 edges sucks, but at least it's always the same configuration of edges. There are generally two ways that I go about doing 12 edges, solving 8 and then dealing with the S-slice, or solving them staggered and forcing an edge off the S-slice for an easy 1-3. So first, we'll just do the way I've shown before. All of the edges are bad, these are bad, these are bad, these are bad, these are bad. Everything sucks. But with an FB, you've got your front and back oriented, and then you've just got this S-slice. These ones are bad. And that's not the best case, but we know how to deal with it. R, D2, can really finger trick with this cube. R2, and you D, F. You've got them all solved. And it's a good way to approach it, but you should also be able to be flexible, maybe, do U prime F2 sort of thing to influence your other edges, since it's the same solution all the time. So here, you've got these bad edges, and yeah, so when I do this, sometimes I'll do an F to just orient these, and then instead of doing another B to orient the ones on the D, do a D prime, and then a B, because that still keeps 4 in the back, D, and then instead of having them on the S slice, I've got 1 already off, and I can just insert them one by one, like I've shown before, and do an F move. So that's how I deal with 12 edges. So I've gone over how to solve EO sort of case by case, but I want to just show how you solve it in a real scramble, dealing with other things. So here we've got 3 in the back, got 1 on the side, 2 in the front, nothing. So this is the 6 case, and right away I see a couple different ways of doing it, and based on my line edges, which are right here, I'm probably going to do it this way. Also, it's just the first thing that comes to mind. So I've got these 3 in the back, and this one good, so I can do a B prime actually, to get this here, and then I can do R2, L, F, and then I've lined these up pretty easily to get slotted in. So that's my EO line, and then just solve it. I see these two, they pair up pretty well with that. I can split these up. I got this, I see this corner, so we can cancel into that. And we've got this ZBLL. I was wrong. That is not the ZBLL. It's this ZBLL, which looks very similar in my opinion. The cases do at least. So here we've got one bad edge, got one bad edge, and we've got 2 bad edges over here. So 4, that's a pretty easy case. My line edges are here because I use EO line because I'm a main OH solver, so I don't really mind too much about 2H. And again, the first thing that comes to mind seems to be a pretty good way of solving. I can do an L to get this on the back and slide these into the back too, and that does keep my line edges across from each other. Do a B, do an L2, and then slot this pair in with this line edge, or cross edge. Insert the line edge, D, and then R2 to get this X line, and then I can solve these two pretty easily. And now I'm noticing that this corner, this edge is in, and this edge is in, and I don't like that, but I'm not sure if there's a whole lot I can do before I insert this. I don't think I'm going to try and do anything. So then we're stuck with 2 corners in the top, which aren't the best, and you can't really influence things around, but I can at least try and knock this off. So we can insert this, and whoops, wasn't able to. Oh well. So this you can do triple sexy or super soon, and I prefer super soon, and that also keeps top same. So this is another soon case, which is luckily a Nicholas, which I like this alg. I don't know if it's that fast, but it's a fun alg to do. Finally, you've got a 3 on the back, 4 on the side, 3 on the side. Then you haven't counted yet, and 2 more. So this is a looks like a 10, no, an 8. And the other 2 was a 6 and a 4. So this is interesting to get something a little bit tougher. First thing I can do is do U to get 4 in the back, and a B, and then I can insert this, and then insert these to get them on the front. F, and then insert this line edge. And now, first pair, we've got this. And then I can solve that. And then split this up. And then this. Now we've got a T case. This is actually just an L, or an R, sorry, and to a T perm. And that's it up. Alright, that was my video on how to solve edge orientation for the ZZ method, specifically for beginners. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. If you know anyone who's struggling with ZZ, be sure to recommend this video if you found it helpful. Yeah, that's all. Thanks. Get out there and do better ZZ solves.